Hey gamers, Aksu here. Not much new these days in Dune Awakening that needs a specific guide, so in this video, I'll share a few details about the game where I would personally like to see some improvements. I'll generally keep to the low-hanging fruit, quality of life kind of stuff, and for now avoid significant game mechanics and the endgame loop, which already has an overhaul planned. These are going to be my opinions, and I'm happy if they trigger some thoughtful, constructive conversation. And just for reference, I'm a PvE solo player. I've made it with 2 characters to tier 6 on medium and high population servers. And with that background, let's get started. Because I do stream my gameplay, I would like to see a set of expanded streamer mode options, mostly focused on privacy as well as the privacy of other players. I would say that all higher level navigation screens only need to show character names. I don't think we really need to see account IDs on the permissions list, on friends lists, on the guild roster. I'd say in general is just focus on the character names, and if for some reason we need access to the account IDs, I would just make this an additional detail to navigate further into from the individual friend details. Instead of just turning streamer mode on or off, for me it would just be helpful to have individual options that we could turn on or off, like showing or hiding your account name, showing or hiding your character name, showing or hiding your siege or server name, showing or hiding the sector location that you're in, the map location that you're in. For example, if you're in the deep desert, maybe you want to hide your account name and maybe the server that you're on, but it'd be nice to still see the sector of the deep desert that you're in. Now, individually, you could turn that sector off if you're worried about getting stream sniped. I'd also like more control over muting it and unmuting. For example, muting and unmuting non-friends, muting and unmuting guild members, muting and unmuting friends, and then maintaining that value that streamer mode offers to mute copyrighted music. Next, I want to talk about the in-game maps. It's always annoyed me that I can't access the Haga Basin, Deep Desert, or both settlement maps from anywhere in the world. I've often found myself in a settlement and I want to plan my route into Haga Basin. Or maybe I'm trying to remember where the quest is, you're looking at your journal, or you simply want to show someone on screen or on stream where to go because they have a question, and you just can't do that today. I imagine the limitations are maybe due to your siege versus the shared server areas. I would simply show your home siege for Haga Basin and the deep desert instance that your base is in, or maybe the deep desert instance that you most recently exited. While we're traversing the world map, I think it would be really helpful to have access to your journal. I like to be able to reference the different locations that I may need to visit so that I can plan my Haga Basin entry point. I'd really like to have access to my journal from anywhere in the game. From the world map, the entry point into the deep desert could use some improvement when there's multiple instances active. Now this is only going to affect those high pop servers. If you're on a lower population server, you may not even see this window at all. For example, when the populations are lower medium, you can see the different instance numbers, but when the populations are high, the instance numbers are missing. Because each of these deep desert instances is given a siege name, I think we should just always show that name on the options list instead of the instance number. I would say the presence of a base in that instance should be added to the icons, similar to the guild members or friends in that instance. Now going the opposite direction, when we're in the deep desert and we're looking to exit, I just don't really understand the limitation regarding the exit zones on the southern border. It would be really nice to be able to exit the deep desert from any of those gaps on the southern wall, because visually there's really little differentiation guiding you to the correct gaps on the shield wall versus the ones that you can't exit from. Alright, another hot topic here is being able to remotely abandon, and I'll even add destroy vehicles. Like many other people, I've had a sand bike that's underground, under the geometry of the terrain, and it's been there for weeks. It's not taking any damage from sandstorms, and it's occupying one of the 10 vehicles that I'm allocated space for. I can only imagine that there's tons of these vehicles littering the landscape, or actually underneath the landscape. I know this has been an ongoing problem, and I imagine it's the cause for lots of support tickets as well, so I'd really like to see this addressed. I'd like for the owner to be able to abandon or destroy their vehicles remotely. Abandoning would probably be the obvious option, but I'm a little worried about that if it keeps the assets in game, and those could affect game performance, whereas allowing the player to destroy the vehicle, that would actually allow them to reclaim the vehicle using the added feature in the vehicle backup tool. Now I could see that destroying your vehicle could lead to some abuse. One idea might be that destroying a vehicle could probably have a multi-week cooldown. I would say for most players and for legitimate use, we simply want to recover the vehicle, or at least more importantly, the vehicle slot that is otherwise bricked. Another feature related to the vehicle backup tool that was recently changed is summoning your vehicle is more like placing a construction part, and I really do like that you can see green or red where you can place the vehicle. However, being blocked from entering your vehicle simply because your vehicle tool is still in hand is really frustrating. If this change was specifically to try to combat abuse in PvP, I find that the solution of not being able to enter your vehicle with the tool equipped affects 100% of the player base in a negative way. I would prefer to see something that targets the unintended behavior and a smaller percentage of players. Perhaps something like adding a specific weapon cooldown every time you exit the vehicle, so you can't just pop in and out of your vehicle shooting rounds in between. Otherwise, if the change is due to the improved red-green placement indication like the construction tool, I would say unlike construction, vehicle placement is one and done. You're not continuing to place more vehicles like you would do wall parts, so I think it would be easy enough to have the vehicle placement automatically holster the vehicle backup tool so that you can immediately enter the vehicle. It's that time, guys. Please help support the channel by subscribing. You can also leave a like or comment, which really does help with the algorithm. And if you happen to be interested in live gameplay, I do stream weekly on Twitch, and I really do appreciate your support. Thank you so much, guys. Here's another one that affects lots of people as they're moving in and out of the deep desert, and that's destroying your crafting stations and other construction elements where anything you can't carry in your backpack overflows onto the ground. And a lot of people have suggested, can't we have those overflow from your backpack into storage containers? Now, I'd recommend that the sub-fief console output circuit could determine where those materials flow to. We already know that the sub-fief console's input circuit controls which circuit the construction tool draws materials from. I think using the output circuit in this way would make a lot of sense. Related to this is if you've ever destroyed a large spice refinery, a large ore refinery, or some of the advanced crafting stations or utilities, you know that a lot of those materials will drop to the ground. And then picking up those materials can be very tedious. It can take many backpacks full to move those materials into storage. Also, many players, especially from the deep desert, will have experienced that when you destroy something, those dropped loot containers can fall through their base down to the terrain level, sometimes making the materials appear lost and potentially even rotting on the ground before they're found. I can certainly think of potential issues like the sub-fief console is destroyed, causing the circuit assignment to be lost, or maybe it's even inadvertently destroyed when the supporting structure is destroyed. That's a whole other topic. However, I think using a circuit and overflowing to containers would solve this issue the majority of the time. Now, for those accidental console destructions when its support is lost, it appears there's no support check that could throw a flag or warn the player to prevent that base component destruction that results in a chain of destructions that ultimately destroys your sub-fief console. Now, perhaps a check could be added, or alternatively the sub-fief console could just persist without support. I have to imagine that today, competent PvP base builders out in the deep desert are already placing the console on the terrain, and for that reason, I think if the sub-fief console persisted, it would minimally impact base raids. Now, for base decay, that's a whole other topic. However, if the console losing support is one of the key items for base decay, I think that could probably be replaced with some other more effective strategies. We've all seen how slowly some bases are decaying, and generally the console is in great shape anyway. Some other small things, I personally would like to see that earned rewards, not purchased rewards like faction skins, I'm talking Landsraad house garment swatches, the Chome event weapon skins, or murals. Those things, I wish they were account bound versus character bound. I feel like we earn them as the player and should have access to those across all of our characters. It's a small thing, but I do believe that a separate water circuit for public use that's not linked to your full water storage would be really welcomed. This could be maybe an additional circuit, so that you could have a private and a public circuit. If for some reason there can only be one base water circuit like it is today, I think one solution could be that on the individual water storage container, we could either connect it or disconnect it from the base water circuit. So we could fill it manually, but it would not continue to draw water from the circuit if it was empty. I think the last big area would be around Landsraad. There's really quite a bit of information that could be added, but I know that the Landsraad system is in rework right now, so take these comments mostly as considerations in case they're useful for whatever system's going to be replacing the current one. I'd like to see that the faction bonus is visible on screen somewhere. This would be when your faction loses the Landsraad for the next week, they get a 20% bonus, and I believe that bonus can stack if you're losing week over week. However, we don't see that faction bonus enumerated anywhere on the Landsraad UI. I think it would be really nice if each of the individual rewards had a tooltip associated with them, so you could actually interrogate what the stats are for the item that you could receive. Of course, it would also be really nice to see if you've claimed the rewards, so that down the checklist it could say that these items have been claimed or not. And for me, I think it would be really nice if each tile on the Landsraad board had a link to the rep location in-game. And on the mechanics of the Landsraad, I'd really like to see bribing start later in the week, once the competition has developed a bit between the two factions. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the way the control points work today. My concern here is that only the player who flips the control point or claims the control point is able to gain any contribution points. There's no ability for other players to earn contribution by reinforcing the point. If your faction has already capped it, then you're kind of locked out for that control point. While I've offered these ideas, I have to say, I'm pretty excited about the number of great changes that the team has already implemented into the game, and I'm really looking forward to the roadmap of rework and expansions into 2026. I'm interested in your comments and thoughts regarding improvements that could be made. Thank you for your support. Until next time.